Petite French women over 60 tend to own very few blouses. 6 at most, sometimes 4. The number isn't what's worth noting. What's worth noting is that almost every blouse in those wardrobes belongs to one of 5 specific cuts. And the reason isn't style preference or personal habit. It's geometry. It's the same geometry that Inès de la Fressange has championed for decades. The idea that a petite frame doesn't need more options. It needs the right ones. There is a proportion problem that almost every blouse sold on a high street fails to solve. And petite women over 60 feel it the moment they put one on. The shoulder seam sits half an inch past the actual shoulder. The collar is wider than the frame can absorb. And the body of the blouse is cut for a torso that is, on average, 2 to 3 inches longer than theirs. None of this is on the label. It never has been. After 60, the proportion problem compounds. Posture shifts over time. And for most women, this means the natural increase in thoracic kyphosis, the gradual forward curve of the upper spine, changes how fabric behaves across the back and shoulder. The shoulder rounds forward, even minimally. A blouse with a wide shoulder seam or a boxy cut doesn't drape across the shifted silhouette the way it drapes on a dress form. It bunches at the back, pulls at the front, and makes a fitted blouse look unfitted. Petite women over 60 aren't choosing smaller blouses because smaller is more age-appropriate. They are choosing the 5 cuts that still fall correctly once the body stops cooperating with standard sizing. The first cut is the most specific and the most misunderstood. Not a silk blouse in general terms, and not the silk satin that dominates most shop floors, because it photographs well and stays smooth on a hanger. A silk blouse in crepe de chine. Crepe de chine is a weave. It's produced by twisting the silk yarns in alternating directions before they're woven together, which creates a fine, slightly crinkled surface with almost no sheen. The fabric typically runs between 16 and 19 mommy weight. That's the industry measurement for silk density. And within that range, it's heavy enough to fall without clinging, light enough to move without adding bulk. The surface looks matty and slightly irregular under light, and that surface is the point. On a shorter frame, a fabric that doesn't catch light doesn't draw the eye to the places where the figure is widest. On a petite woman over 60, whose posture has shifted in ways that change how fabric sits across the upper back and shoulder, a fabric that falls close without reflecting or pulling is doing structural work that satin simply cannot do. A satin weave reflects light across its entire surface and catches at every horizontal fold. A fuller figure absorbs this. A compact one amplifies it. The crepe de chine version of the same blouse, in the same color, reads as quieter and more fitted, even when it isn't actually more tailored. That's the difference the weave makes, not the silk grade, and not the price. Houses like Cézanne have built a significant part of their blouse offer around this principle, crepe over satin, consistently across their petite-friendly sizing. The V neckline that petite French women pair with crepe de chine matters for a separate reason. A shallow V, roughly 2 to 3 inches below the collarbone, creates a vertical line from the jaw to the chest. The eye follows it downward, and the upper body reads as longer. Women who swap it for a crew neck or jewel neck lose that vertical entirely. The blouse becomes a horizontal band across the top third of the figure, and the figure reads shorter. The second blouse is a fitted collarless cotton, usually fine poplin or smooth broadcloth, a plain round or split neckline, a body that ends at or just below the natural waist. The absence of a collar is a proportion decision, not an aesthetic one. A collar, whatever its shape, adds horizontal mass across the collarbone and upper chest. On a longer torso, this balances the body below. On a petite frame, it tips the visual weight upward, and the head and shoulders end up taking a larger share of the total figure. The collarless neckline removes that mass. A clean line from jaw to chest creates nothing but vertical. The length reinforces it. Petite women who let a blouse fall to the hip lose the one visual break in the silhouette that the eye reads as height. The fitted collarless blouse, ending at the natural waist, holds that break in place. The third is the wrap blouse, and it works for one mechanical reason. A wrap creates a diagonal line across the front of the torso, rather than a horizontal one. Every seam in a garment either extends the eye in the direction it runs or divides the body at the point where it crosses. A straight horizontal seam at the waist divides. A wrap that crosses from shoulder to hip extends. On a petite woman, that diagonal travels the full vertical length of the torso, and the figure reads as longer. The blouse doesn't need to be form-following for this to work. The diagonal does the proportional work regardless of how much fabric sits behind it. What doesn't function is a wrap that ties too high above the natural waist, which recreates the horizontal division anyway, or a wrap with so much draped fabric on one side that it adds volume at the hip. The cut petite French women use is a fitted wrap, tied at or just below the natural waist, with minimal excess in the drape. The fourth blouse is where sleeve length becomes the variable most advice skips entirely. A full-length sleeve on a petite woman ends at or just past the wrist bone, which is technically correct, but it completes a long, unbroken vertical line from shoulder to hand. When the blouse has other strong vertical elements working alongside it, this is fine. When it doesn't, the arms read as disproportionately long against a short torso, and the figure looks unbalanced in the wrong direction. A 3/4 sleeve ends somewhere between the elbow and the wrist. It breaks the arm line at a point that draws the eye inward toward the body, rather than outward to the hand. The exposed forearm lightens the silhouette without removing the sleeve entirely, which becomes its own problem in cooler temperatures. When the blouse is the outermost layer, the 3/4 sleeve changes what the eye does with the arm in relation to the rest of the figure. It's a small shift, and it reads as a significant one. The fifth is a narrow vertical stripe on a fitted blouse. It runs the eye from collar to hem along the length of the garment. The stripe does not need to be bold or high contrast. A 1 millimeter line in a shade that is only slightly deeper than the base color does the same proportional work as a pronounced stripe without the visual noise. What matters is that the stripe is genuinely vertical and genuinely consistent through the seaming and shaping of the body. A stripe that widens at the bust seam or curves at the side, which is common in cheaper construction, inverts the effect entirely. The eye follows the curve, not the vertical. There is a structural reason this proportion problem exists at all, and it predates fast fashion by several decades. In 1958, the United States government published a national clothing size standard, CS 215-58, built from measurements taken on nearly 15,000 women. It was the only shared reference the industry had for what a size actually corresponded to in body dimensions. In 1983, the standard was withdrawn. No replacement was issued until 1995, when ASTMD 5585 established a new voluntary standard, and voluntary is the operative word. Manufacturers were not required to follow it, and most of them built their sizing around a demographic that was taller, younger, and shaped differently than a petite woman over 60. A woman who is 5'2" and picks up a size 12 is buying a blouse cut for a torso that may be 2 to 3 inches longer than hers, a shoulder that may run an inch wider than her frame, and a neckline positioned for a collarbone that sits higher than she is standing. The label says nothing about this. The size number has not changed. What has changed is that the fit has drifted away from her body, consistently and without announcement, across more than 40 years. Petite French women over 60 did not reverse this at the industry level. What they did was identify the 5 cuts where the geometry still landed correctly, regardless of what size was printed on the tag. The V-neck in crepe de chine, the fitted collarless cotton, the wrap front, the 3/4 sleeve, and the narrow vertical stripe. The proportion problem is still in every blouse that does not make the list.